Hello and welcome to this week's Selling Made Simple live chat. I think we're live. LinkedIn just freaked out and said that we weren't live. So if you're watching this on LinkedIn, give it a thumbs up, a like, a comment. Do something to drive some engagement and I can make sure they're actually live online. If not, we're on YouTube. We can always rely on YouTube. Their live chat stuff seems to be far superior to all the other platforms. So with that, this is Selling Made Simple Live. My name is Will Barron. I'm the founder over at salesman.org, and I will answer your sales, business, entrepreneurship, small business ownership, lifestyle questions. Anything that you ask me in good faith that isn't completely ridiculous and irrelevant to the entire audience here, I will do my best to answer. And I've just got off doing a presentation of our Selling Made Simple Academy to a potential large enterprise corporate. And so I've got the presentation in front of me, which goes through all of our frameworks. So if there's any of these frameworks that you want me to go through on this live chat, whether we look at how you can build an online platform, whether you want to look at how to handle objections, take over competitor accounts, become more productive, become more optimistic, whatever it is, drop what you want me to cover framework-wise in the chat on this live stream, which is hopefully on LinkedIn, hopefully on YouTube, and I will go through the frameworks the best I can and give you as much kind of content and advice as we possibly can as well. Let's jump into some of your questions. Again, we can go through these frameworks. We don't have to go through these frameworks. We can go through whatever you like. I'm going to chill with you for the next 30 minutes or so, and then we'll wrap up there. You'll hear my voice getting more and more hoarse throughout the day because I've done a lot of talking today. Okay. Hilmana asks, is it normal for an entry-level sales job to feel exploitative? It depends whether you are being soft when you say that, as in sales is difficult. You can make a ton of money in especially B2B, business-to-business sales role, but you've got to put in the hustle, you've got to put in the work. It's not necessarily work harder and more than other people. It's definitely work smarter, more effective, have more expertise in the marketplace, and you'll earn more than the competition. So it depends. When you say exploitative, are you being very literal, as in your boss is forcing you by, he's got a whip behind you and they're forcing you to work 15-hour days for minimum wage? Then it shouldn't be exploitative. If what you're saying is this is more difficult than what you expected when you went into it. Clearly, we just come out of the midst of a global pandemic, so it's going to be somewhat tough right now to get cash out of buyers' hands in the B2B buyer marketplace. It's going to be tough. And if you're coming out from that perspective, then no, it's not exploitative. It's just hard work. This is one of the untold elements of sales success. And we've got a framework on it here. Where is it? We call it sales effort. Increasing your levels of sales effort, understanding that talent is not what wins business. Effort typically is what wins it. And talent comes from effort, which I can show you in a second if you want me to go through that framework. That is a valuable thing to learn. Gary asks, can I have success as an account manager if I am an introvert? For sure. I've done a bunch of podcasts with Matthew Pollard on this topic of being introverted, showing up as an extrovert on occasion when you need to. Hey, this is not you, Gary, you're asking this question, but we literally have a workshop on showing up as an extrovert. I'm somewhat of an introvert. I can go back and forth depending on my energy levels. And the definition of an introvert as an extrovert in the literature, scientific literature, is an introvert is someone that gains energy from spending time alone. An extrovert is someone who gains energy from spending time with other people. At the end of the day, I just want to sit down and watch TV. I just want to read a book before bed. I want to chill. I don't want to be around other people. So technically, I'm an introvert, but I can be extroverted. I can turn that on, and you can learn that via frameworks and training as well. So yes, you can have success as an account manager if you're an introvert, especially if you're selling to introverted individuals. If you're selling into IT, technology, and I'm painting broad strokes here, right? But if you are selling into those kind of environments that probably have more introverts within them, you're going to have more rapport. You're going to be able to build rapport faster with a potential buyer than some extroverted loudmouth coming in and embarrassing everyone and having mad banter with these individuals when all they want you to do is come in, solve the problem, and then leave because They don't want to really speak to you because they're introverted. Okay, what else do we have? Benjamin asks, I'm soon to graduate and engineering isn't for me. Fair enough. I did a degree in chemistry. Chemistry was not for me because I'm the worst scientist of all time. I want to try sales for a couple of years. What would be what sales role would be a good option with my engineering experience? So we talked about this on last week's live chat. If you can get into any space where essentially you're taking human labor, physical work, and you're replacing it with AI, you're replacing it with software, you're replacing it with technology, that's where you want to be. So I made an assumption here of engineering as in software engineering. So if you've got a software engineering degree, that's where you want to be, right? Anywhere where you can take 50 people in a room and replace it with one server in a server room 500 miles away, the other side of the world, that's where you want to be, because that's where all the money is going to be in that space. And the ROI on that is insane right now. It's not great that we're engineering people out of their jobs, out of their roles. Fine, hopefully these people can land on their feet. But if you can go into an organization and say, hey, that entire floor of people no longer needs to exist if you buy this product or service. That's an incredible ROI potential to throw at someone. If you're talking about physical engineering, then amazing. You're going to have technical knowledge, skills, and ability that someone who is a salesperson selling a technical product won't have. You're coming at it from what is a more interesting angle of, hey, I understand this. I can communicate the value proposition of this product very effectively with my buyer because I'm very much like my buyer. And then you just got to layer some sales skills on top, which you can find on all the podcast content that we do. And if you want to take it more seriously, head over to salesman.org and check out the Selling Made Simple Academy. Asan asks, would you ever do car sales? No, because we don't need car salespeople anymore. I've just bought a car this weekend, a car to get Walter the dog in, right? And the salesperson, she was very nice. She was perhaps subtly skilled in what she was doing, but it was get to the dealership. Hey, because I'd done my research beforehand. I'd done the buying process beforehand, right? If this is the buying process for me going, I've got a problem. I need to get the dog in the back of the car. I can't get it in the back of a coupe BMW because there's no back doors. It's a pain in the ass. Here's my problem. The solution is I can now put the dog in the back of my Audi estate, jumps in and out, loves being in the back. I'm now getting to this point here. I've done all of this research myself. I've watched tons of videos and buying reviews. I've been on car comparison websites. I've done all these different features. I don't need a salesperson to help me with this. I need a salesperson to help me here. So I'd never do car sales because at this point there's very little, and maybe car salespeople would disagree with me, but there's very little value to add as a car salesperson. And so if you're adding little value as an individual, you're going to earn little value because the exchange of value is not very high. If I'm in medical device sales and I have to go into an operating room, share what the product does, how it's handled, how the surgeon should use it, perhaps point them in a few directions technically whilst they're using the product inside a living physical patient, the value that I'm adding in that scenario is high. And so more often than not, I'm going to get paid. I'm going to get paid an appropriate, what's the word? I'm going to get paid appropriately versus the value that I'm delivering. It's been a long day, guys. Guys and girls. Okay. Let's have a look what we have. Jesse asks, good evening. Good evening, Jesse. You are clearly this side of the planet as opposed to in the US. How do you get to the right decision maker in B2B sales? Okay, Jesse, feel free to follow on to this. Do you know who your decision maker is? That is the number one issue when people talk about objections, when people talk about not being able to get through to the right people. Are you getting through to the right person? Is it a large complex sale where there's 6 to 15 individuals within the account who all have a little bit of authority? Do you know who your influencers within the accounts are? Do you know who the blockers are, the people who don't like you, don't want your product or service, and will just scupper the whole deal? You got to know who you want to get in front of before you get in front of them. Now, Once you've got that really sussed out, you've got a value proposition that you know you can, if you can get the person on the phone, you can really wow them with your value proposition. Then you've got this weird gray area in the middle, right? Of you know who it is, you know that they're going to want to speak with you, but how do you bridge the gap? This is when we're going to use cadences. So an example of a cadence, and this can be experimented with, you can try different ways and twists and turns, would be to send them an email that has insights, that's not particularly pitching anything other than, hey, if you enjoyed this, we might be able to work with you, we might be able to help with XYZ. Would you like to, does it make sense to jump on a call next week? If they don't reply to that, and you'll get some replies to that, but not, maybe you get 10% of people replying, 20% of people replying if you've got the messaging right. Then you're going to send, and this is all to be tested. Don't just do this verbatim. Perhaps use this as your cadence at first and experiment with it over time, especially if you've got an organization who's clued up. They'll help you with some of this experimentation. Email, insightful, no pitching. Can I share my insights with you over a call? I think we might be able to help. No reply. Have you got their number? Can you now cold call them? So technically it's a cold call, but hopefully they've read your email. They know that you value first. They know that you're not just spamming them, that you've got something hopefully important to share. Do they pick up? Don't they pick up? If they pick up, again, don't try and pitch them there and then. Use that opportunity if you're speaking to the person on the phone, add more value if possible, and get a proper meeting booked in. Because you just interrupted this sucker. They are not going to want to speak with you for 20 minutes, 30 minutes so you can pitch your product. Get in front of them and book a meeting in the not too distant future. If they don't answer, voicemail. So now we've had cold email, cold call, but hopefully if they read your email, there's a little bit of something there, so it's less cold. You're seemingly interrupting them less because you're offering value to them. Voicemail. And now you can just go back to the beginning. You can sprinkle on things, and Daniel Disney is your man for this. I do a podcast with him called The Social Selling Show, which you can find over at salesman.org. Now you can sprinkle on things like LinkedIn. Is this individual super active on LinkedIn? If you're selling into the SaaS market, the software as a service marketplace, if you're selling into anything to do with Silicon Valley, technical products, software products, they're probably spending a bunch of time, your potential customers, on LinkedIn. Add value to the what they're posting if they are posting. If they're not posting, perhaps you can tag them in posts that you think is going to be relevant for them, that you can add value to, get them in the conversation. And then after one or two of these, don't just like a comment and then don't do anything with it, because they're probably not going to pop up in their notification feed. And it's not going to be relevant. It's not value adding. Then add them on LinkedIn. So now you've got this cycle. And again, this needs to be experimented with. It depends on product, service, deal size, individual that you're trying to get in touch with. But if you do this for long enough, email, call, voicemail, social selling, LinkedIn, whatever platforms they're on, go over and over and over again. It might take 2 weeks. And at that point, you've got to suss out, right, is this individual seeing all the content I'm sharing with them, opening all my emails, not accepting the calls, but perhaps they are listening to your voicemails? Well, you might consider them a great buy, but they might not be qualified. They might be thinking, okay, I just want Jesse to reach out to me in 6 months' time, and I might be willing to buy then. You don't get to choose necessarily unless there's a trigger event that you can force within an account. So a trigger event is someone leaving the company getting funded, COVID, a global pandemic, whatever it is. It's difficult to trigger events, but you can do it via like instant discounts and things like this. There's a long answer to a short question, this. Once you go through the cycle, you go through it 3 or 4 times, you get to 2 weeks, you get to 3 weeks, then you want to reduce the amount of outreach per cycle length. So you might want to do 1 email a week, 1 call every 3 weeks. And then that just continues until the buyer's at the right moment of their own buying journey when they can speak to you, where they want to speak to you proactively. And they're going to pick up eventually. They're going to answer the phone eventually. And it's rare that you get the right person at the right time with the right product, with the right trigger event, but it does happen. And this is why we need to, in sales, play a little bit wider, have a big, fat, full pipeline of potential customers. And if you get enough customers in your pipeline, there will be people at the right moment, at the right time that you can sell to without having to be all weird and slimy and try and influence them and essentially manipulate them into buying when they probably shouldn't be buying, which leads to buyer remorse, refunds, you look like a dickhead, and you don't build a strong brand doing that. So there you go. The long answer to a short question. Jesse says, thanks, I'll have to watch all that back. New to your channel, love the content. I appreciate it, Jesse. I appreciate it very much. I love your picture. Jesse's got a sick bow tie. Killing the game, mate. Okay, this is obviously one on YouTube. No asks, what's the best automated selling system? There are plenty of automated marketing systems that will sell products, but if we're talking B2B sales, the whole point of it is that it's not automated because you're injecting individuals, you're injecting people into this marketing system. So let me give you an example of a automated marketing system that is not compatible with B2B sales. Selling Made Simple Academy. You can sign up right now over at Selling Made Simple. At salesman.org. Just click the sign up link, and here's one for you guys who are thinking about signing up. You'll get a discount if you come on our live webinars, right? If you come on live webinars, you'll get a discount on the $3,000 it usually costs to sign up. Because people who come on the webinars tend to be way better customers for us because they've gone back and forth. I've answered the questions. They know exactly what they're buying. And so we get less complaints. They are more active in the community. They are more effective. They give us better testimonials. So I'm happy to give people who sign up for the webinar a discount. So this is how we automate some of our sales and marketing. We do paid advertisements. And where are we going here? So we'll do a paid ad that can scale like to the moon. If you've got enough cash, you can get in front of essentially everyone in the planet. It goes to a webinar where I'm selling now, after giving a bunch of training and answering questions, I'm selling one to many. So that's how you scale sales and marketing. But to automate it and not have to do any work, it doesn't exist. And if someone's offering you a system like that, it doesn't freaking exist because everyone would do it, and then the marketplace would just be so spammed with automation that you'd break through and you'd actually get more attention by automating less. That's how these things work. Okay, what else do we have? What time is it? We've been going for 18 minutes. I'll go for another 10 minutes or so, and then we will wrap things up. Net asks, what is in your pockets right now? Someone asked this a few weeks ago, and it's probably exactly the same as what it was then. Oh, slightly different. I've got the iPhone 12, whichever the latest iPhone is. I treated myself to that not too long ago. I have wallet, a couple of cards, driving license, and some cash. And that is it. The keys are in the door. Not very exciting. Not very exciting, unfortunately. I don't know what you were expecting to be in my pocket. If you watched last week's episode of This Week in Sales, I played a probably more interesting game of what is beneath the desk. If I just go to this camera's not really set up to be shown, but you can see the whiteboard there that we do stuff on, a step ladder. This desk that we're on right here, there's massive pockets underneath it, and there's like 5 years of just crap under here. There we have a Texas Hold'em poker set. We have a Vans shoebox full of other crap. So yeah, that's probably a more interesting game. So watch last week's This Week in Sales if you want to see what's under the desk. Okay, what else do we have? And Anmeet Preet asks, what would be your dream sales job? My dream sales job would be... This probably changes. If you ask this in 2 weeks, it'd probably change again. What am I really enjoying at the moment? I'm really enjoying fooling around with music production. If I could sell... maybe selling on a high level, and there'd be service involved with this as well as physical products, selling studios. Similar to what I used to do selling medical devices to surgeons. We'd go in and they didn't just want an endoscope, didn't want a camera system, they wanted a whole operating room, and I'd be involved, there'd be other reps that come in and help with this process. It wasn't just me selling them alone. Like Bradford, they've got a couple of theatres that we helped kind of install via the company that I worked for last. It'd be selling like studios, as in you come in, we do all the technical work, all the speaker arrangements, size of speakers, type of speakers. We do all the audio, I think it's not audio engineering, but audio geometry work, where you sort out, well, this needs acoustically treating, that doesn't need acoustically treating, this room needs to be soundproofed, all that kind of stuff on a high-end scale. I don't even know if this exists. I assume they'll have consultants, they'll have salespeople who will sell this on behalf. Because if you're opening your second, third studio, maybe you don't have in-house people to do a lot of this work. So that'd be cool. That'd be a cool job. I'd be interested. You get to meet a load of producers, recording artists, and that kind of thing. You'd be hanging out with a cool crowd, and you probably get people trying to suck up to you all the time because they want freebies from the company, which is always nice as well when the customer wants to hang out with you as opposed to you spamming the market to get the customer to spend any time with you whatsoever. They're the roles that we all want to be in. Okay. Alex asked, would you get your beard shaved? I've shaved it off regularly. This is actually slightly too long for me now. I'm going to go back to almost stubble-esque in the not too distant future. I mean, it almost looks a little bit scruffy when it's this long. So there you go. What else do we have? We'll do 3, 4 more of these. In fact, we didn't even get to any of these frameworks. What is a good framework, just to show you an example of? So this one's not the easiest to comprehend, but if you have any hang-ups on your ability to have success in sales, this is a valuable one to understand. So we call this and this is all training from Selling Made Simple Academy, which you can find over at salesman.org. So we call this the sales effort framework. So what's super important to understand is that talent or skill is manufacturable. You can manufacture it. Nobody, regardless of what you think, and these are beliefs that are put into us by Disney films, by the media, there is no science that shows that people are born talented. Even people who are like virtuosos on piano at like 7, they're not born being able to physically play piano. There is no memory from within our DNA that passes stuff like that from one person to another. It's a learnt behavior. So if you want high levels of sales skill, all you've got to do, literally, this blows people's minds. And I could quote almost verbatim, not quite verbatim, but almost verbatim, the studies that prove this. All you've got to do is put effort in and have some initial results. Now, a lot of people whether it's playing golf, whether it is writing music, producing music, whatever it is, most people don't put in enough effort long enough to have these initial results. And these initial results act as a feedback loop. We go round and round and round, and it gets faster and faster and spins stronger and stronger. And it encourages us to put more effort in when we have results. So your skill level, you're not born with it. Maybe you're born with some of the traits of high performers, like you were more inclined to be extroverted. You were more inclined for your upbringing to not be a people pleaser. There's 12 traits of high performance, which we can touch on in a second if you like. But if you put in enough effort for long enough, so you start having some initial results, you now have skill. And if you want to have massive sales success, all you got to do is use the skill that you've developed over the past 1, 3, 5 years. Our training product over at salesman.org is a relatively intense 4-week training. You can do it over 10 years if you wanted to. You can do it as slow or as fast as you like. But we try and get people to do it over 4 weeks. That 4 weeks of effort will lead to massive results that will give you a baseline level of skill. And then it's just your routine. You do the right things once you've got the right skill set often enough, over and over for a long enough period of time, and success in sales, it's almost guaranteed. It's literally as simple as that. There's no secret sauce. There's no automated magic selling technique or tool. All you got to do is master these frameworks, right? The 27 fundamental selling frameworks. Get some initial results so you've got that momentum, so you feel excited about it, so that you know for fact that they work. You've implemented, you've put them into the marketplace, they've come back out, and you've closed a deal or two. And then you just got to use that skill with the right daily routine for long enough to have big success. It's dead simple. Don't overcomplicate sales. Don't overcomplicate any of this. Don't listen to anyone who has secret sauce, magic this, magic that, automatic this, automatic that. It's all nonsense. If you ask anyone who has high levels of success, all they've done is do the same thing for 10 years. It's literally as simple as that. Anyone who's killing it in their sales role right now, Maybe they got more initial results just by fluke at first, which accelerated the skill progression. And then they just did it for 3, 4, 5 years. And the initial results are down to the market. It's down to you. It's difficult to manipulate that. You got to have the right product at the right place at the right time. The initial results, there's an element of luck that comes down to that. But once you get over that hump, maybe it's a year into sales, 2 years into sales, you do our training program, you do another training program, whatever it is. I don't care what the training program is that you're doing, but you've increased your level of skill. It's just daily routine for long enough, and you're going to crush it in sales. It's literally that simple. Okay, so there's one framework. I might stick one framework in there for you. What else do we have? Jesse asks, what are some techniques you use to keep accounts? Okay, let's have a look at some of these process frameworks. Because there's frameworks for all of this, right? If you are trying to do something and there's no framework to have success within it, then you just pissing into the wind. You've no idea where it's going. You've no idea the actions that you're taking, whether they're working or not. So you need a framework. You need a process. I call them frameworks. It could be a sales process, other people might kind of push to. But to answer your question, what do you do, Jesse? What are some techniques you use to keep accounts? So here's 2 things that you need to do. You need to drill this into your brain. To keep accounts long term and to keep profitable accounts long term, you need to both increase pricing occasionally and you need to upsell these accounts products. Because don't forget, the company that you're selling into, they're not stagnant. They're going up and down. Hopefully they're going up and they can take you up there with them. They've gobbling up market space. And so if that's the case, you're going to need to upsell them additional products and services. And just over time, I've just talked about this on This Week in Sales with Victor Antonio. Inflation is coming. Inflation is here. Without boring you all and going into too much detail, especially if your companies you work for have held pricing over the pandemic period to allow their customers a bit of breathing room, we're all going to have to do a ton of price increases over the next few months to 18 months or so. Every company is going to be doing price increases. So you need to be able to sell them. So we'll go through this framework, the price increase framework. What you've got to be able to do first is document results. You've got to be able to show the buyer that every quarter they've paid you X and they've got Y value out of the other end. You've got to be able to show regularly, routinely, an ROI to your customer. So Jesse, if you are not constantly, that's not fair. If you're not at least on a quarterly basis printing off a PDF, even better if you can hand it to your current customer in person. If you're not doing that, at the very worst, you're emailing them, hey, you've used, if it's a software product, you've had 12 seats on this software, you've done so many actions and it's led to so many results. This is the time you've saved. This is the cost you've saved. This is the human capital you've saved. These are the amount of lawsuits that you've avoided, whatever it is. You need to be able to report that quarterly so that when the price increase comes, the buyer isn't like, why are we even buying from you in the first place? Why? Who are you? You need to be relevant, and you do that by documenting results. Next up, we're going to review the buying process. And the point of this is, when we start talking about price increases, we don't want the buyer to go, the price is going up. I should probably do some due diligence. I should probably look into the marketplace and suss out whether you're still competitive like you once were when we won the deal from you originally. So what we need to do at this point of the conversation is start going, hey, you remember that it was a pain in the ass to buy this in the first place. You remember that you had to have 20 meetings. You remember the amount of capital and man hours it took to get this deal done in the first place, right? And then the buyer's going to go, oh yeah, I don't really want to go through all of that again. So we're lifting the status quo off the account just a little bit so that we can push them one way or the other, so we can influence them, so that we can get this price increase set in their mind. And then we need to do, there's one of 2 things here. Essentially, this is what we call a trigger event. Now, I think I touched on this at the top of the live chat. Trigger events are reasons to change. Humans don't want to change. I want to go to work, right? Earn a ton of money, do the same thing I've been doing for 3 years, and come home and not think about anything. Now, clearly the market doesn't work like that. People who adapt, especially salespeople, my buyers are now on TikTok. I'm going to start creating content for TikTok. My buyers are this, my buyers are that. The people who adjust and change are going to have more success. But our natural human trait is to reserve resources, reserve energy, and wait for the apocalyptic big event that comes along that forces us to get off our asses. So what we need to do, we need to generate that big event that forces this price increase to become a reality. So if someone's just left the company, if the company's just about to be acquired, if there's something else going on, we can use these as trigger events to say, hey, we need to increase the price right now, because if you move to someone else, this trigger event, because if you move to someone else, if you change product in the middle of an acquisition, for example, that would be a huge trigger event that could scupper the whole deal. So just go with the price increase, suck it up, and let's move on. That's one way of doing it. If there's a natural trigger event happening within the account at the moment of time that we're trying to upsell them, a lot of the time we're trying to upsell them because we need more profits. They don't really want to change. There's nothing going on, and so we need to generate a trigger event, and we can do that with an instant discount. So we say, this is what everyone else is paying. If you sign up this quarter, whatever it is, after we've been through these other steps of the process, we'll give you 20% discount. Instant discount. That's how you generate a trigger event. So there you go. In answer to your question, what techniques do you need to use to keep accounts? You need to, regardless, you need to document the results within the account, stay top of mind within there, and then naturally over the course of an account's lifespan, you're going to have to do price increases and product upsells, and these are the two frameworks to do that very thing. Okay, I'm going to answer a couple more, and then we will wrap things up. SA David asks, how do you manage rejection? We have a framework. So you say rejection, I say selling anxiety, right? Because it could be that you're just about to reject it. It could be that you've got a big deal coming up and you're nervous about the deal. It could be any number of things that's leading to anxiety. And what typically happens, we've got our internal brains and we've got our external brains. What happens is, whatever it is, you get rejected and your internal anxiety alarm gets triggered. I personally, if I'm really embarrassed, I'll go bright red. And then I start going, oh shit, I've gone bright red. And I start to get worried about being bright red. And I start then using coping behaviors to get rid of this. I will literally leave the room. This hasn't happened since I've been running salesman.org, but it's definitely happened in sales roles in the past. Someone said something stupid, I've been rejected to my face in front of a crowd of people. I feel myself going bright red. This alarm has been triggered. I realize this creates a feedback loop right here. It creates a feedback loop of me realizing I look silly, and so I'll do a coping behavior to escape. What happens then is other people see the coping behavior, and so next time around, it becomes even more insidious. And you go, everyone noticed I went bright red, and so the internal alarm gets escalated, and this happens even more acutely and more aggressively. And this happens with rejection. You go, oh, I don't want to say this thing. I don't want to attempt to close the sale because last time I got rejected, this anxiety alarm went off. I used some kind of coping behavior, perhaps not asking for the close. My boss started banging on about the fact that I don't close deals, and this makes this anxiety alarm even more primed to just like ding, 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 and go insane over time. So what we need to do, we don't want to get rid of this anxiety alarm. It's very difficult to get rid of it. You're probably not going to get rid of it. What you need to do instead is change for a better coping behavior. We'll use your example here, SA David, on YouTube of managing rejection. If every time you get rejected, your coping behavior is, right, I'm really upset, I'm really embarrassed, this has really got me down, I'm going to go to the water cooler, I'm going to go to the kitchen, I'm going to make a cup of tea, I'm going to reset. That then reinforces this rejection because you're lamenting on it, and you're just going to get more and more upset. Feedback loop is going to get even stronger, and eventually you're going to quit sales. What you need to do is come up with a better strategy. If you're bothered about getting rejection, perhaps you're cold calling. We use this as an example. You're rejected, you say, thank you. You hang up the phone, you make another dial. You're not giving yourself enough time for this feedback loop to get worse and worse and the anxiety to get worse and worse over time. Thank you. Click. Next person. Straight on. What happens then is your coping behavior is positive. It's exciting for you. Eventually, you're going to hear rejection. You go, okay, whatever. And you're just going to go back and forth. Your team, the people around you are going to go, friggin' hell. SA David on YouTube is immune to rejection. So you're going to get that social proof from other people's opinions, which will feed back into this anxiety alarm. And eventually the anxiety alarm just becomes diminished. It just won't be there anymore. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff or plenty of behaviors you did as a kid when you were nervous, you were scared of things. Now, maybe as a kid you saw a spider. So what did you do? You ran away and told your parents that there was a spider. My partner's still scared of spiders, so she does this regularly to me. Will, there's a spider in the bath. Can you go and get it? So this anxiety alarm's getting worse and worse and worse over time. Whereas if she changed her coping behavior and just took a slipper off and whacked the spider once, then I would give her loads of praise just naturally, because I don't have to go and frigging kill these spiders anymore. So her opinion of herself would go up, her ego would go up, esteem would go up, and next time she saw a spider, none of this nonsense, just a better coping behavior, she'd whack it. And again, once you start doing that, your anxiety alarm doesn't get triggered anymore and you move on. And essentially you grow up. So there you go. You need to change, not necessarily your thoughts, your beliefs, all these really difficult things that can be changed within a human brain. Just force and make it a habit to do a more productive coping behavior as soon as you get rejected. Pick up the phone again. If it's an email where you got rejected, send another email. Freaking out. If someone sends you something nasty over email, just delete it. Bam, deleted, done. Never think about it again. There we go. Hopefully that is useful. I'm going to butcher your name. I appreciate you not being angry about this. This will be the last question to answer. Parabjot. Sorry, mate. I know I'm getting that wrong. Parabjot asks, love the live sessions and the great conversation. I love you. I appreciate that, mate. Just a suggestion. Can we have such sessions on a Friday at the same time? No, because Fridays are when I try and wind down. I try and have a day off on Saturday, and that requires me not to do any work on a Friday evening. So there you go. Sorry. Suck it up. Thursdays it is. If you enjoy this content, though, make sure to, on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, as it's known now, Google Podcasts, this gets published on, obviously it's not live, but you can consume it after the fact. You can't ask your questions. I appreciate that. But yeah, you can tune in and check out that content on the podcast. This goes on YouTube, and it is just forever on YouTube as a I guess, expired live chat after the fact. So even if you want to watch this on a Friday, you can still just choose to watch it on a Friday. Well, hey, I nailed the name. I appreciate it. I probably didn't nail it. I did also have 5 attempts at it. So one of the 5 will be somewhat close. I appreciate that. Cool. We'll wrap things up there because I can feel my voice disappearing. As I said, I've done lots of talking, lots of presenting today. Hopefully you found these frameworks valuable. If you want to learn more about the frameworks, make sure to get signed up to the webinar. Completely free webinar. We'll go through all the frameworks. I do a big Q&A at the end of it so you can ask your questions in a more, I guess, consultative role. There's just a handful of people on these webinars, maybe like 20 or 30 people, and I'll go through all the questions. And I will give you a discount for being on the webinar, as I touched on earlier on. For the training product, you can find that over at salesman.org/webinar. If you want to get signed up to Selling Made Simple Academy today, you can just head over to sellingmadesimple.com, and all the information, all the content, some videos, all that good stuff is on there. And that is it. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy. I'm looking forward to the Conor McGregor fight this weekend. Come on, McGregor. Even though he said some quite nasty and horrible things to young Dustin Poirier this week, I'm still rooting for McGregor. I am half Irish. So there we go. Quarter Irish. So there we go. I'll see you on the flip side. I'll see you next week on next week's Selling Made Simple live chat. Cheers, guys.